I believe that there's a pattern that's developing of attacking AI. And I believe that I guess the suspicious nature in me says that somehow the CCP is involved in this because they want us to stop doing what we're doing so that they can get and win the race to AI. Am I far off in my thinking, Mr. Shedd?
I think you're spot on. In the race for artificial intelligence and who's going to come out ahead, they have every vested interest to create conflict in the United States, and I think the term sow discord in the United States over data centers and everything that's associated with that, and their goal is ultimately to emerge ahead using all tools available to them in order to create this friction point, which is beginning to emerge in a very, very decided way in terms of the political implications and all of that. They then combine that with, they mix it up with the issues of the electric grid and all the rest of the other aspects of it. No, that is not a coincidence.
Yeah, and I think they're using that for their advantage and try to put an anchor around our research into AI because they understand how critical it is for us to win AI, for them to win AI, because frankly, it's the future. Finally, I don't know how much time I have left, but one final question. We have a number of large corporations that operate out of China, and I know that there are laws that say they must cooperate with the PLA and Chinese intelligence agencies. Some of these large corporations have been telling us that no, that they don't comply with that. I don't know who can answer this, but do you believe those large corporations, or do you believe that they're just telling us that so that we allow them to remain there? Because I actually believe it's a huge security risk for the United States, for those large corporations and their intellectual property to be in China and actually cooperating with Chinese authorities.
Every one of those corporations that operate in China have CCP employees. Hard stop. That's just the reality of it. They have a duty to report and collect on that company. Secondly, every U.S. corporation or Western corporation that's vested or invested in China does not have control of its cyber capabilities within the mainland. Those belong to the Chinese Communist Party. Thirdly, every one of those now is affected by new laws that have been passed since 2015, the cybersecurity law, in which the data then that they intend to extract is prohibited from being taken out. Their profits are now being affected in terms of what they can remove. And the most nefarious is the national intelligence law that was passed in 2018, and that's Article 7, in which that every Chinese citizen, when called upon, and that's an important point to underscore, when called upon, must cooperate with the Chinese Communist Party through the mechanisms of the Ministry of State Security, both at the provincial level and all the way up to their version of the federal level.
If I might, if I could have the opportunity, since I served as legal director for an American company, Illinois Toolworks, in China, I will say that there are manners in which our company was able to manage our intellectual property, manage our trade secrets in a manner that would protect our company and protect our innovation in remaining in the country. I agree with Mr. Shedd that there are challenges to all of that, and there is an evolving network. But I think this is where I would agree with him that education of our companies is so vital to this, because there are manners in which we can do this, but it requires cooperation, it requires education, it requires a level of expertise that sometimes we're just being a little bit too simplistic about.